All right, spoilers aplenty if you have not seen Mandalorian Season 2 finale, The Rescue. And I'm very sorry I did not put spoiler warnings in my initial review of that episode. But, well, there it is. By now, I don't know how you miss it. It's all over the place. But Luke Skywalker returned. And there had been rumors about this. I even did a video on that some time ago. And wondered about the possibilities and whatnot. And, you know, for the most part, what I expected would have been just like maybe a silhouette of, you know, and the nod to Luke Skywalker, or maybe even his voice could be heard. And that would be about it. Instead, we had this glorious scene of him coming in and wiping out the Dark Troopers. And as I said in the review, it's kind of a mirrored, reminiscent view of how Darth Vader's appearance in Rogue One was at the tail end there, where he's just slaughtering all the poor rebels. He's just one against, you know, this several soldiers, and same thing with Luke here against these powerful Dark Troopers, and he just wipes them all out. And in this case, it's completely believable because of Luke's power. One of the complaints was how the stormtroopers are so easily dispatched. It takes away the stakes and the risk. But in this case, with Luke's power, the Dark Troopers, they never had a chance. Whereas Luke going up against another Jedi and what have you would be, well, there's no Sith left there, so, as far as we know, but certainly perhaps a misguided Jedi or what have you could be quite a challenge. Maybe even some Mandalorians could get the drop on them. They did that. That's a story I'm sure they will go into at some point, going deeper in the past of Star Wars, the Jedi-Mandalorian War, as the Mandalorians seem to be the only ones who could really stand on the ground with a Jedi somewhat. More times than not, Jedi is going to win, but still, it's an impressive thing to them. So. Is Luke Skywalker the new hope again for Star Wars? Well, the bad news. The damage done by the sequel trilogy is massive to the overall narrative and storyline, but also to the fan base, that built-in fan base that the franchise had, which is the reason why you spend billions to purchase that, and then you crap on them. It's just an amazing thing to see how this all rolled out. And I was on Doomcock's Friday Frolics, and I talked about this. For the most part, we were celebrating the emotional response, and it was powerful. And I rewatched the scene, and it's still powerful, even with the scenes with Mandalorian and little Grogu, and it's perfect. They did this. The show itself is not perfect. There's flaws and stuff here and there and all that, the stormtroopers, what have you, etc. But boy, I tell you, that delivery there is pretty damn flawless, and the performances are very well done. And someone on the show mentioned it reminded them of E.T. and that kind of feeling you got. And he said, "Yeah, that's really there, And so it's good, and all of that. But it's constantly. It also is good. It's like the more good it gets, the more it reminds you of what you were robbed of what could have been." Especially when it comes to Luke Skywalker. And, this is the sort of thing they wanted to see old Luke do, to show up, at the tail end of Force Awakens and all that, something spectacular. Even Mark Hamill spoke to something like that he would fly in his old X-Wing fighter, and they're like, "Who's this guy?" And then it pops out, it's Luke, something along those lines. It's something people would have wanted. Instead of seeing what is Last Jedi. And the reason a lot of people were confused and people passed on Force Awakens was the rip off of New Hope. But Chapter 8 will fix all that. Yeah, that's where it's going to get good. And oh, good Lord. And so that still stings, and that's why there's a lot of people even making fun of people who got teary-eyed, which I guess includes me, that it's too little too late, and there's a lot of truth to that, and that's the problem Lucasfilm, Disney finds themselves in, that they put themselves in. It's also a testament that, oh, gee, if only Favreau could have been in charge of Star Wars from the get-go when they started the sequel trilogy, it would have been a different story, because you need somebody there to understand that. Of course, they did have somebody who understood this. They had Mark Hamill warning them and telling them when you're taking someone's offering you advice on Luke Skywalker and it's Mark Hamill, listen to the man. You know, I don't agree with Mark Hamill on a lot of things, but when it comes to Luke Skywalker, I think he knows what he's talking about. So I, who knows, but to have had it oriented this way, and it's really good. It was great. And for the narrative of what they're setting up there and what they're claiming, the timeline that this takes place, and the whole business of Grogu sending out the SOS, if you will, for the Jedi, what Jedi would show up, and they were saying it could have been a bait and switch. You think it's Luke, but then it's this other character, a new character they make up, or someone left over from the Clone Wars series, something like another, we already had Ahsoka Tano, and for her reasons, they said it couldn't be her. So who else could it be? Of course, it would be Luke. And then they did it. So after all this time of being cheated and lied to, that had power in and of itself. And that, holy crap, they really did it. And so it's there, and it's good and all, but at the same time, it's still bad because of what happened. But there is hope for Star Wars as a franchise going forward. It's just never going to be what it was, and over time that's understandable. In a lot of ways, it already was like that. You can't really recapture, the 70s and early 80s like that. The prequels really didn't, but the franchise in and of itself was very high up and respected, and that's why you shelled out the big bucks to buy it. And now it's not that. Now it's got this massive, nasty, radioactive, giant pothole in the middle of the franchise, and it's hard to ignore. So, are there hopeful signs? Well, Luke comes back. He's in all his glory and all that stuff, and we see that. So, as the story goes forward, I'm guessing that Mandalorian Season 3, and there will be a Season 3, Boba Fett's series, which we also got a teaser of that, will be a separate thing. This will be Boba Fett's series. Ahsoka will have her show, and the Rangers, I think, will involve Cara Dune, and that's where that show goes and all that. So a lot of things are spinning out of Mandalorian, so you kind of start over with Mandalorian in a lot of ways. So Mandalorian itself can be a successful franchise unto itself and spawn these other shows that, if good, can get excitement going, and there you go, you're off to the races, and you can sell your merchandise and stuff like that. But as for the storyline set up for Grogu, how does that continue? You would have to involve Luke at some point. Man, I guess the easy way out is that he runs away from the Jedi School to find Mando and to be reunited with him, and that might be their out to where you don't have to. Because, look, you got the problems of the digital work you got to do, which still isn't quite altogether there. There's a little moments there. It's like, it doesn't look quite right. Of course, I'm not opposed to the idea of recasting Luke Skywalker with Sebastian Stan. Maybe Mark Hamill does the voice. I don't know. But, for more prolonged scenes and interaction with Luke being a part of the series, possibly, for the Grogu scenes. But, and maybe we'll get a better look at what Luke's school looks like at its early stages. And maybe there's other Jedi you'll meet and stuff like that. And to where that way you can keep the scenes of Luke at a minimal, because you just can't do them because of Mark Hamill's age and the technology and all that. But in the meantime, Mandalorian himself needs his own story. We got snippets of it, of his background and all that. It was orphan surviving the Clone Wars, and that could be interesting of his own story, because season 2 was clearly the reign of the guest stars, and each one got more and more serious, and then, oh good lord, what a way to pay off at the end there. But it is certainly an appreciated respect to the character that was beloved and is the heart and soul of Star Wars. I mean, Darth Vader was the star of the original films. There's no doubt about that. He ate up all the scenes, and he was just a powerful force, if you will. But Luke was clearly the hero of the whole story. And the lessons learned there from his journey and what he went through and how he gets there. So many lessons for other stories to tell. You've got to have your hero fail. You've got to have them learn. You've got to have them struggle and overcome the odds. But the odds need to be formidable. And Luke had all that. Poor Rey didn't get any of it. And that's the odd thing about this, about we're going to represent girls and have them a female hero to look to, and all of that, as if the female fans couldn't look to Luke, which was nonsense. But just ask them. But nevertheless, okay, you wanted Rey in there, and you gave her nothing. Absolutely nothing. At the last minute, you shoehorned this ridiculous Palpatine story. It just awful. Whereas here, the Mandalorian series is a rather simple one, and yet more detail and planning is there, and it pays off and it maps out. And I just, it still boggles my mind how this all happened with the sequel trilogy. I mean, I would have expected at the worst it would have been some, kind of stupid films. I mean, like Solo, I kind of like. Most people, it suffered the sins of Last Jedi, but if they had just made 3 Solos, they'd be in much better shape. They'd be kind of dumb films and wouldn't be as good as the previous ones, but it just had a basic plot and your hero's development and all that sort of stuff, and that. There you go, you're good. You didn't do that. You teased the possibilities in the first one, and then that was it. It was just really bizarre. So, if Rey was supposed to be your big hero, you never let her be one. Yeah. So, yeah, that's that. And that's a big hurdle to make, because the moment of that Beatles reunion, you could have had, you pooped the bed on that one. You passed on it. I don't know why, but you did. And it can never be done. It can be done narratively. They can do it in animated thing, or they can do digital thing. I mean, nobody wants to because Carrie Fisher died, and it's too sad, and it feels wrong, and so the moment has passed and you can never get it back. So I don't know how they do this. There's theories of the world between worlds can be made to put the sequel trilogy off in its own timeline, and now that we're in the original timeline and this will be the real story, but the story of what becomes of Luke and Han and Leia can only be mentioned or referred to, unless you recast. That'd be the only way. And then they would tell the further story, and perhaps the real kids, or the real next generation of Skywalkers, and what that story was supposed to be, more akin to what the expanded universe had detailed. And maybe they could get there, but that would only, like I said, would be a triumph, but it's still going to sting. And that's why there's a lot of people saying, yeah, that's cool, but it's too little too late, and I don't care. So, and that's the sad state of affairs for it. I enjoyed it. I like Mandalorian. It is a flawed show, but I like it nonetheless. It's pure genius compared to the sequel trilogy. That's not saying a whole lot. But it's the sad state of affairs where it is, and so I don't even know even if Luke Skywalker is a regular character. Maybe that could go a long way, but the moment passed and you missed it, and you can't go back, and that's the sad thing about it. Now, at this moment, what they do going forward, one more stupid thing, whether it's firing Gina Carano or screwing up Luke, or following what they seem the little Easter eggs and subplots concerning cloning is a means by which to connect to Snoke and all that. It could really just kill it for good. So they've had a moment. They've had a nice Christmas gift to Star Wars fans. For the most part, it seems most people are united in this, with the excitement and the happiness of seeing Luke. But it could be a very dangerous time at this point if they screw up. I don't care about the Leslie Helton show. I'm just not going to watch it. There's plenty of other shows. So if they want to do their little crappy, misandrous show off to the side, fine. But if I've got 2 or 3 other shows that are pretty good, if the Obi-Wan show's good and Ahsoka show's good, then I'm fine, it can still work. And that, like, the sequel trilogy should have been the one they took more care with, whereas in the opposite effect is actually Rogue One was their best one, and then Solo was even better than those, despite being kind of stupid. But it's odd how those shows had more care to them, and of course the massive reshoots and everything, and yet for the sequel just throw whatever. It's very, very strange. All the while saying, well, we want to get our message out and stuff, and you didn't even really do that. That was sloppy. So it's always it's a painful thing for a Star Wars fan, but at the same time it's almost fascinating as to how stupid it all was, and how does that happen? It's a strange, baffling event. But anyway, so anyway, that's a little follow-up thoughts on that. For Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker, and we'll see what they do. It certainly opened up possibilities and piqued a lot of interest, I think, and Mandalorians, for the most part, has served D+ well. I don't know if it's enough, but they seem to be doing well. If you can believe the numbers, D+ is doing better than others. HBO Max is still struggling. So it's doing the work, and that's good for D+. But Star Wars overall, I don't think it can ever achieve the greatness it once had, but it can be a viable franchise and profitable. So, all right, a lot of lessons. Hopefully people are paying attention and learn from it. And give Star Wars to Favreau. That's your best bet. Just give it to him. Let him be in charge. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.